Welcome back to Counseling Tips for Pastors and Ministry Leaders, a podcast that is all about equipping you for the counseling related, relationship related needs and concerns of your church and your ministry, and a podcast that is here to encourage you in the hard work that you are doing. Ministry life is not easy. That doesn't mean we're doing anything wrong. That doesn't mean that the Lord is not in it with us, leading us, guiding us, equipping us. It is simply a reality that ministry work is hard. And today's conversation is going to focus more heavily on the encouragement side of that equation. But of course, these tips and tricks and all the strategies that we will talk about definitely might be helpful as you are counseling or working with other people in your church or in your ministry. They might be things you want to recommend or encourage to them, but my goal today is to encourage them for you, to recommend these 10 different categories of coping skills to help you persevere, endure, stand firm, and avoid common issues like burnout, exhaustion, and all of those both spiritual, relational, emotional, and mental struggles that can come with that journey of ministry life. So I haven't yet introduced myself. If this is your first time tuning into the podcast, my name is Jess Hayes, and I'm a licensed counselor in South Carolina, and I'm the director at a small nonprofit Christian counseling center in Florence, South Carolina, called iHope Christian Care and Counseling. Now, if you are in South Carolina, we do have availability for counseling appointments. We have discounts for full-time pastors, and we are a 501c3, and so we welcome your donations to support the ministry. So if you want to learn more about the iHope Center, just head over to ihopeflorence.com. But as I said, my name is Jess. I am a counselor, and all 10 of these tips that we're going to talk through today are very helpful. They are not unique to those who are pastors or Bible study leaders or in some area of professional ministry work. They're not magical cures for anxiety or depression or whatever struggles you might be facing, but they are practical, they are helpful, and they are very much in line with a godly lifestyle and with the calling that Christ gives us to not only love our neighbors, but love them as we love ourselves. If you are never taking care of yourself, you will crash and burn eventually, apart from a miraculous intervention from the Lord, and ultimately you will not be the best equipped that you could be to care for the people in your church, in your ministry, let alone care for your wife or husband, your children, your family, and neighbors. And so these 10 different areas of coping skills are helpful, they're practical, they are, let me look over my list, yes, they are free, they are not going to take a ton of time or even a ton of effort, but we all know that you're busy, and so they might take some intentionality. So let me walk through this list of 10 different types of coping skills that I believe every person, including pastors, including ministry leaders, needs to have in their life for maximal effectiveness at your work and just for overall mental health and emotional wellness. So I'll offer some very specific examples, but mostly these are 10 different categories of coping skills. So the first area is have some coping skills in your life as a regular part of your rhythm and routine that release physical stress. Most people carry stress physically. They get stomach aches, shoulder aches, head aches. And so releasing physical energy and stress on a regular basis is really helpful. So this might include an exercise routine. That's right. You might want to start running or jogging, or kickboxing or whatever it is that works for you. Exercising, stretching, but even something as simple as a stress ball to squeeze and release. There certainly are little exercises that you can do even sitting in your chair. I'll give you a small example, which is a lot easier in the counseling room when you're watching me, but a lot of people who sit all day long find this helpful, that you just put your feet flat on the floor, you're sitting in your chair, hold on to the bottom of your chair, and now try to stand up, right? If you're watching the YouTube video here, that's what I'm doing. That's why my shoulders are tensing. You're just holding onto the bottom of your chair and you're trying to stand up. You're stretching those muscles, working those muscles. You might succeed and pick up your chair and walk around. That's not really the goal. The goal is releasing some of that tension and stress that we typically hold somewhere in our bodies. That's the first category of coping skills. A second category is that we all need a healthy way of releasing emotions. Now, a lot of pastors are men, and men stereotypically are not as frequently expressive of their emotions as women are. Obviously, that is a stereotype and a generality, but releasing emotions is a part of the human experience. We are all familiar with one of the shortest sentences in the Bible, which says Jesus wept. He was not afraid to release emotion, to show emotion. Now, the way that you use this as a coping skill doesn't have to be some big public display of emotion, although crying, guess what? It does often release some of that emotional energy. But journaling, writing out your thoughts, art, and some sort of creativity, that might be building little Play-Doh figurines with your kids. It might be coloring in the margins of your prayer journal, listening to music or writing music or playing music. Those are all very common and easy ways to get some coping skills around releasing emotions. A third category is that we all need coping skills that allow us to regularly enjoy something. So this might be a hobby. It might be that classic self-care activity, but these are things that simply make you smile. Your favorite comfort food, or that go-to TV show from your childhood that just makes you smile, activities that you enjoy. Your family might love to go hiking together. You might like to read books, sit at a coffee shop and read a good book. That's one of my husband's favorite, just kind of enjoy myself, refresh, recharge type of activities. You know what you enjoy. And honestly, it might have been a long time since you set aside 5 minutes, 15 minutes, maybe even 5 hours to simply do something you enjoy, but that can refresh and refuel us in a really helpful way. Category number 4 here for coping skills that every pastor and ministry leader needs is creating something. Now again, that doesn't mean you're doing it every day. It certainly doesn't mean you're doing it all day, every day. But our God is a creator. He is the creator, and he created us in his image. We are creative beings. You might be an artist. You might write music. You might write books. You might bake or cook. You might garden. You might just tell hilarious stories to people around you, to your kids. There are so many different ways that we can create without it needing to be a big public thing. We don't need to be stand-up comedians or famous artists that are going to be hanging our artwork in a museum. But even something as simple as cooking a meal and doing it for the Lord and enjoying it and making it pretty on the plate. So you can, if you want to take that picture and post it online, sure, that's not really the goal. The goal is to simply be refreshed as you create and to find enjoyment in that. Another category that's really helpful is connecting with people you care about. Now, some people are extroverts or introverts. Do you love to be around people and that energizes you or not? Either way, we all benefit from regularly connecting with people we care about. That might be phone calls, coffee with a friend, playing catch with your kid after school. There are all sorts of ways you can do this. The thing is, if all of your conversations with people are based around, they're struggling, you're ministering to them, you're trying to help them, you're solving problems with them, that is helpful. You might feel good about that, but that's different than having a conversation with a friend or being able to share with someone else in a helpful way. Category number 6 here is to have a regular coping habit, a coping skill area around purposefully resting in the Lord. Not reading the Bible to prepare for a sermon, but simply to connect with the Lord. Praying, confessing, worshiping, just for that relationship between you and Jesus. Another category here is trying to, what I would call, achieve something. And I don't mean a big, I got a trophy and I can set it in my office type of achievement. I just mean finishing a project you've been working on, cleaning an area of your house or your office, doing something where you can actually say, I can check that off the list. I can see a change. This floor was dirty and I vacuumed it and now it is clean and I can enjoy that. I can celebrate that. Achieving things can feel really good. Obviously, that is not the goal of our life. That is not how we earn salvation or earn the respect or relationship that we want with other people. But if we're never feeling like we're achieving something, that is not good for our own sense of self, sense of worth, our own mental health. Achieving things can be a healthy part of your overall coping skill toolbox. Let's call it that. Number 8 here is celebrating something. Keep a gratitude list. Keep that prayer list where you can actually celebrate God did this. And then tell a friend, call your spouse, tell someone about something exciting that happened. Notice the good things and don't just let them slip on by. Come up with some sort of system for yourself. Doesn't have to be time consuming. You don't have to share it with other people, but that is a way of coping, a way of refreshing yourself to focus on the good and wonderful things that are happening in your personal life, in your family life, in your ministry work, even just around the world, people you're connected with. The more you're celebrating, the more you're thankful, the better that is for your soul and your spirit. Number 9 here is to laugh at something. Find some coping skills that make you laugh. And for a lot of us, that's watching something funny. Maybe you're a joke teller or you have a friend who's a joke teller. Maybe it's looking back through a photo album and smiling and laughing at some old memories. Maybe it's having a conversation with an old friend. Laughter really is good for the soul. And the final category I want to highlight here is finding coping skills that allow you to care for something, to take care of something. Some classic coping skills here would be spending time with a pet. They need you to do something for them, and you can do that. And then not only have that relationship, maybe with your cat or your dog, with your furry little friend, but you can also feel that sense of being needed in a way that is not as intensive as you might feel needed at church or at your job or at your ministry. Caring for something might be gardening, growing a plant, being able to grow a tomato plant and pluck it off at harvest time and eat it and enjoy it. Caring for the earth, creation, caring for pets, caring for children, or maybe volunteering somewhere that has nothing to do with your job of ministry. Those are all just examples. So let me run back through that list of 10 categories of coping skills before we sign off today. So coping skills that release stress, release emotions, that allow you to enjoy something, create something, connect with someone you care about, something that helps you purposefully rest in the Lord, skills, coping skills that allow you to achieve something, celebrate something, laugh at something and care for something, or maybe someone. Now, is it a wasted day if you don't do any of these things? Of course not. Are these the secrets up the sleeve that are going to make your ministry successful, however you might define that? No, they're not. Are any of these necessary for your salvation and for your spiritual growth? No, they're not. These are tips and tricks, these are skills, these are activities that all of us need for our mental health and our emotional wellness, so we can be refreshed and fueled for the hard road of ministry life. So I welcome your feedback. If you want to reach out, you can get all our contact info there at ihopeflorence.com. And if you have questions about these type of things, you can leave a review on the audio podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Leave a comment if you're over there on YouTube. Obviously, this is not an exhaustive list, but hopefully it's a helpful jumping off point, maybe something on there that you haven't thought about before, to care for yourself so that you're not just day by day giving and giving and giving and forgetting that you also need to be filled up. So friends, this will wrap it up for this episode of Counseling Tips for Pastors and Ministry Leaders. And again, if you are in South Carolina, we welcome your donations to the iHope Center because we are a 501c3 nonprofit, and we welcome your referrals, both virtually and, of course, in person for counseling or life coaching. All of our information is at ihopeflorence.com. And we will be back next week with another episode of Counseling Tips for Pastors and Ministry Leaders.